Oh, did it just switch me over? I guess so. Sorry, I'm trying to. I was hoping that would be a little bit smoother. I was trying to transition the scenes, but it looks like it just went straight into it. Okay, that works. Good morning. Hope you're doing well if you're watching. I mean, obviously, I hope you're doing well if you're not watching, but you wouldn't hear me say that if you weren't watching. So, hi. Good day. Hope you had a good weekend. This is English 386, the graphic novel. This is my stream for the class, and today I've got a lot of things I want to try to cover, and so I'm going to get into it pretty quickly. But I'll let people get online if they're still doing that. As usual, let me know how the audio sounds, or just I guess just let me know if it sounds bad. I suppose. I'm going to keep an eye on the Twitch chat. And there we go. Keep an eye on the Twitch chat and of course Discord. So if you are in the class, then that's where I will be looking for your messages if you have them. A lot of great things going on in Discord. Over the weekend, many of you were doing the homework assignment over Saturday and then last night, and are still working on it this morning, I think, too, some of you. So yeah, it looks like my audio is a little bit laggy. Hopefully it's not too distracting. I'm going to just run with it, but if it's really bothering you, let me know and I can try to calibrate it. Okay, so I thought I would actually just start with something that I tried to show you all the other day, and that is the document camera, which if you turn it on here, you'll see my hand. That's not what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you was another example of a wordless graphic novel from the early 20th century, and so this is a book by Lind Ward. Here it is, and I thought I would show it to you, I guess read it to you, but that's kind of the question, is like, what do we mean by reading when we're talking about wordless text, silent texts? Obviously we can read these, and you've all demonstrated that with your homework working on the city, where you made certainly very legible comics out of those images. And when I say legible, I mean that you made something that can be made sense of, that other people can look at, respond to, and understand because they respond to because they understand. So I wanted to show you a different way of doing this, and I did on Friday, I guess. Yeah, Friday I showed you several works by Franz Masriel. So you all looked at the city. I also showed you Passionate Journey and Story Without Words. And this is a work by Lind Ward. My document camera here isn't great, but it should give you a sense of it. And he has some similar techniques to Masriel. He comes a little bit later. He was inspired by Masriel, so he was an illustrator. This particular edition has an introduction by Art Spiegelman, which is nice. And so he's working in woodcuts like Masriel was, but a different line. I think you'll notice, like, there's a different style, a different level of detail. I don't know if he worked with just larger wood or different kind of wood or something, but it comes through a little bit clearer than some of Masriel's work, and certainly the images are slightly larger, so that might be just, he has more room to work with. So this is a book, really a novel called, let me go back to the title page, called God's Man, a novel in woodcuts by Lind Ward. So notice he's explicitly using the term novel to describe what kind of thing this is. And I think that's significant because a novel, when we think of it in the modern sense, has certain features. It's length, complexity, moral importance, perhaps. So that you can see all of these things in this work. Whereas Masriel, I think, was a little bit more ambivalent about the kind of thing he was creating. He just wanted to he had an idea, he wanted to make it. And I think even the city, if we look at it, I don't know if novel is the right word to describe it. I think documentary, maybe, journalistic essay, but not a creative nonfiction, maybe. But I guess we could call it a novel too. But here we have the author of this work specifically and deliberately using the word novel, so I think that's important. So anyway, this is Lind Ward, The Brush, and I'm just going to take you through as much of this as I can. I don't want to take forever. Many of these images they really reward close reading. Like, you can really enjoy and spend some time with some of these images. So I'm going to go through maybe the first section of it, and I'm trying not to narrate too much. But here we see this gentleman on the ocean. He sees something, and he paints it. He returns and parks his boat and heads back to the city with his easel, with his canvas. He sees this man begging. And notice how much more expressive and I guess cartoony this is than Masrur's work. I guess just the level of detail is partly there, but there's definitely a different style. Very intense, very dramatic contrast between dark and light. Quite a lot of dark, but our artist here is light in his face, and he's giving this beggar a coin. Here's this magnificent view of the city as he's approaching it. Very reminiscent of like Metropolis, the silent film. That's this style, almost an I don't know. You could say almost a geometric modernist kind of or brutalist style of representing the city, which you see in a lot of expressionist works. So he's going to this inn, which is I like this. This is the Slink Inn. So this kind of seedy place. He's having a meal. Innkeeper wants his money. Look how ugly that face is. And the artist tries to pay in art. The innkeeper is not having that. He's pretty unhappy about the offer, and yet there's someone else here. We see the hand sticking in from the side. This creepy gentleman has showed up with his top hat and his all black face, black hands. And he pays the innkeeper. Gives him 3 coins and appreciates the artist's art for a minute. And he says, here's a brush. Now this is, I don't know if you've noticed, but this is part 1 of this novel. Part 1 is called The Brush, and this is the brush. The brush in question. Very stylized, but he's describing the history of this brush and talking about people through time who have used this brush. Different artists through history. Again, look at the contrast. I mean, the strong lines and the light coming through the door. Contrast of the vertical and the diagonal, I guess. Drawing your attention into the frame of the painting that this monk is holding. I don't know if these are supposed to be specific artists, but possibly. I mean, that could be Van Gogh, I guess. And of course, there's a contract. So this mysterious dark individual has shown up with this magical brush, essentially, and he's offering it here with a contract. And the artist is like, oh, sure, this is easy. Signs the contract. I think it's interesting, the text here is not real text. Like, you can't read these things, they're not characters, but it's an interesting representation of text. Satisfied, the man with leaves with the contract and the art, and leaves the artist with the brush, and that's it. And part 2 is the mistress. So obviously you can't read the text of the contract, but what transpires is that the contract is that he will give that the man with the hat will give the artist the brush, and in return the artist will paint the man's portrait eventually, someday. Okay, so that's kind of an ominous book, but certainly some similar themes related to Passionate Journey, in the sense that it follows a single individual who comes to a city and I guess spoiler alert, is ultimately disillusioned by the city and leaves it. But it's a different, I guess, overarching moral, and there's an idea about art. Similarly, Franz Masriel spent some time thinking about art and creativity in his work, The Idea, and so I think it's interesting that Lind Ward was working with a similar theme, similar medium, but it comes across differently. And I think in a lot of ways, Lind Ward's work is more readable, more detailed, and the characters are more rich. Whereas Franz Masriel's work is almost more of an archetype or a parable or a template, something that you can build onto more later. So it's an interesting contrast between those two. Lind Ward's work is not available out of copyright, so that's the main reason I didn't assign Lind Ward to you all as your required reading. Masriel's work is pretty easy to come across and get copies of for free online, because most of it, or the ones I'm interested in anyway, are out of copyright, and so you can view them that way. Lind Ward's work not being that way, you'd have to buy it. And really, I think this is the best edition of it. Well, here it is now. This is volume 1. It's quite thick, so. But as you can see, you can read it very quickly. So there's sort of I don't know if it's the best deal in terms of payoff. But our library owns a copy. This is our library's copy, and I will return it shortly, so that if you'd like to take a look, you can. I might actually, you know what? Come to think, I might be able to put it on reserve, and so that way. Let me make myself a note. I'll put this on and a couple other books on reserve for you all, just as a optional, like if you're interested in looking at these closer in person, you can take a look. Okay, so that was Lind Ward, and as you see here with the web browser, the way I have it pulled up here, I do want to talk about the disassembly assignment in some detail today and show you a little bit about the process. So I want to make sure I don't forget to do that. So remind me if I haven't after a little bit. But I did want to also respond to. Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. It does look a little bit like Hugo Cabret, and I agree. I hadn't thought of that. Certainly, like I guess the intricacy of the background details and just like the overall emphasis on mechanical imagery. I think there's definitely some of that. And Poofloof, yes, that's also part of what I'm doing today, in addition to the disassembly assignment. Okay, so. I wanted to take a look at a couple of these of the city triptychs that you all created. So thank you for sharing those. And if you still haven't done it, please do it. I want you to. I mean, there's partly a technical process there. It's very, just a couple of steps. But I want to make sure you can, work through something like that. But ultimately, I want to see you working with and thinking about the idea of sequence and how that creates meaning. And just as I said in my note there, just don't forget to explain it a little bit. I thought I was being funny. I don't know if you. Whenever I try to be funny, sometimes I feel like that might come across as nagging. I just thought it was funny to have that text-to-speech thing read out a URL, and that's kind of what you're doing when you just drop a URL in there and say, and don't explain it. So make sure you explain it, and go back and explain it if you didn't already. That's fine. But I do appreciate many of these. Let me see, and I'm just clicking on one. I don't know. Oh wow, yeah. Most of these narratives that you all have extracted from the city are really tragic. I guess that's one recurring theme here, right? Like the tragedy strikes, the city never stops, but the new widow's world did. I mean, that's so heartbreaking. And these kinds of little moments here, they are in the text of the city, and they are part of the life of a city. And pulling them out and focusing on a subject is really what you all are doing. Like by focalizing, you're using the focalizing aspects of narrative to draw our attention to a subjective experience of the city, as opposed to what the work gives us on its own, which is this general, ubiquitous, omniscient kind of narrator point of view. But by focalizing on specific stories, you all give it a lot more emotional depth in some cases. This one's really sad. Several of these are sad. Most of them I would maybe. If anyone found, sometimes you can be funny. I mean, there are some sort of jokey things you can do. Let's see if this one works. Yeah, if you're using the web.archive.org links, sometimes those don't work out. But yeah, I like this one. I guess there's no captions, but I like also finding these moments of quiet, or finding these moments where there's not a lot going on, and certainly not a lot of tragedy going on or violence. The fireworks, just the quiet night street, the Milky Way. I mean, these are just kind of peaceful scenes that do occasionally exist in a city. And I don't know if you've ever lived in a big city or spent time in a big city, but it has this contrast, like this ability to be really noisy and intense and scary, and also really quiet and personal. Yeah, and this is maybe the theme too. This is a good one from I forget who I just clicked on, but the city is one of massive activity, congested, busy, uncomfortable, yet it continues on uncaring. Yeah, I often view this image on the right here as kind of an early image, or I feel like and it occurs early in the book, but it's like coming into the city as opposed to standing outside of it, which has a different kind of narrative point of view. But I like that too. It does continue on uncaring. The massive smokestacks, the intense geometry of the buildings. I think there's a lot of just intense energy and alienation going on whenever you think of the city as this like opaque, monolithic kind of structure. So, yeah, so interesting, good work. Let me see, maybe just take a look at a couple more here. We'll go back. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't remember. And again, I'm just clicking on these randomly. I don't remember who did which ones sometimes. But oh, this is Jessica. Yeah. So the flyers, the flyers falling from the sky. I think that's such a beautiful image, really, and just interestingly, I guess, even in texture. Sometimes these images have a really intense foreground and background. This one is pretty flat in terms of it all being sort of layered. Like, so there's a distance, and then there's a near distance, and then it leads to revolution, and then chaos envelops the world. Yeah. So I think, as I pointed out in Discord, I think this image, the third image, is actually from The Passionate Journey. That's why it kind of focuses on this main character in the middle here. But it's fine. It really, it still carries the point. And it does seem like, even if this middle image is from the city and this one is from the Passionate Journey, they seem to depict the same event. So it's almost like the character from The Passionate Journey is almost having a cameo here in this scene in the city, and that makes sense. There's a couple other riot scenes in the city, so he could be at one of those too. Yeah, there's a lot here. Maybe just let me look at one more. Okay, so Nagel Bagel, you're mentioning you have a tech hex, so we'll see if we can solve that, right? I can usually dispel that, so hopefully that's the case. Okay, and then one more. This is from Shannon. Oh yeah, really interesting. So this one. And this one I do appreciate Shannon's explanation, because I think it might have taken me a while to get this reading of it, but this idea that there's a murder, there's an investigation or a report of some sort, and then there's this sort of unsolved mystery at the end. Like the mysteriousness of that last panel in this position is really interesting. So yeah, good work on all these, and if you still haven't done it yet, please do it. It's good practice, and also it helps you think about meaning in this way, and also I think it's kind of fun. You can also try. I mean, there are kind of jokey ways to do this too that you might find useful. I think looking for a theme like cats, like trying to look at this all from a cat's perspective is kind of interesting, because you have at least two, probably three different panels that focus on animals that might be interesting to put together. So that's just a thought if you still are looking for an idea. But ultimately, what this proves, I think, is that we can read images without text. And I think we know this, but I think seeing it in this work helps us think about all of the things we can read into an image. And there's a lot. And you all pulled out different themes, different emotions by putting them in different subjective contexts in these three-panel arrangements. So thank you for doing that. And Lind Ward, of course, does that well. And I think Lind Ward's work is much more, I guess, directed and more like there's one way he wants us to see that image. Whereas with Masrow's work, I think we can read a lot into it, right? I mean, the way that this particular image in the middle focuses on this, there's this sort of angry man here. There's all these women typing, these other people sort of waiting to see what he says. There's these strange things on the wall. The city is almost always in the windows of any interior shots. So this idea of the city, like these rows of windows, is almost always present. I'd have to go back and look through it, but it might be every single image has that. Let's see. I just picked on another one here. And yeah, the archive.org links take a minute to load, but they should work. Yeah, okay, so this is another one. Whoever this one was. Oh, Tiara. Yeah, focusing on women. And women obviously play a different role in the city than men do. And just as, I guess, question of the city showing up, I don't see the city in this third one, other than the fact that they clearly are in the city. So this idea of the rows of buildings through the window doesn't always, I guess this did immediately disprove my theory. But yeah, so there's a lot of contrast, right? I mean, one of the other themes here is definitely class distinction, lower class, working class people versus upper class, higher class people, and the different kinds of opportunities and challenges they face. And there's, in many cases, a very strong contrast, like in this third panel, between upper and lower class, between men and women, between being inside and outside. I mean, here she's literally the lower class woman working on the street selling flowers is clearly on the outside, while people on the inside are enjoying, a good time, well lit, where she's outside in the dark. I mean, there's definitely a lot of contrast, and the black and white imagery, I think, helps Masriel really emphasize that in some cases, like this panel on the right. Yeah, good. So maybe, sorry, I'm enjoying these. So let me look at one more. One more I haven't looked at yet, perhaps. Here's Sarah. Yeah, I don't know why these showed up. I think because, Sarah, you got these from a different website, but this is another one focusing on a woman, and finding, and this maybe is the same woman that was, earlier there was a different woman weeping at a dead body, and so this is maybe the same third panel as that one. But married life was far from what she had imagined, but if only she had known, every disappointment would have been better than this. I mean, again, such a sad story that you've created from this, but that was really kind of there. You just use narrative to focalize on this particular character, or to really create this character, because I don't think Masriel necessarily thinks of these as the same character. So really interesting work. Thank you for sharing all these, and again, please continue to share if you make another one, or if you haven't done it yet. Okay, so let's talk about some logistics things related to the class. So one of the big things that you may have seen Canvas notifications about is I've put you all into two kinds of groups. So first of all, you're in a modality cohort. So that has to do with when you're going to be coming to class face-to-face versus when you're going to be online. And that's more for my, more for my purposes, to kind of make sure I know who's going to be where, and to communicate to you about where you need to be. And that, of course, starts not this week, but next week. I'll be streaming on Monday, and then Wednesday and Friday, the cohorts will be able to attend face-to-face. I'm going to probably go in tomorrow and just kind of do a walkthrough of the HCC, which is where this class will be meeting, just in case you're curious, so I can kind of show you what our space will actually look like. And how you'll navigate it and where we'll go. And I think just that first experience of being face-to-face, a lot of that class will just be kind of checking on things and making sure that our processes and everything works fine. But anyway, that'll be starting next week, and I'll send you anything you need to know about that ahead of time, but nothing fancy. So I put you in those cohorts, but I also put you in, let me see if I can just pull it up here. I put you in also a working group. And so these working groups are, let's see if I can do this there. Yeah. So these working groups are the webcomic groups. So you will be creating a webcomic with this group. You also will be blogging with this group, and you will be using Instagram with this group. So this is your group to coordinate those three activities. I've put you together based on cohorts. So you should be in a group with other people in your attendance cohort. So double check that, make sure that makes sense. I just went with superhero team names. Hope that makes sense to you. I would just pick something that was kind of easy to remember, hopefully. So check whichever team you're assigned to. I guess I could do this, or you might be able to do this even. Probably makes sense to create channels in Discord for each of these working groups, just as a place for as your headquarters, I guess, for your superhero team. But you have multiple ways to contact and be in touch with each other using Canvas. You can do that. Each group gets its own, like essentially a home page. You can use that to coordinate if you need to. But you don't need to. I mean, there's nothing really urgent about working together at this point. But at your task so far is just to kind of make sure you know which group you're in and who else is in that group with you. And if you already know them, then you can reach out and make contacts. Otherwise, let me just go ahead and make these. I'm gonna make these channels right now in Discord, just so I don't have to remember later. So. I'm just going to go ahead and make these, and it's because this is Discord, you all will see all of these channels. And I don't know if you have the permission to change these, but I can double check that. I know that it's possible for me to assign roles and things in Discord. It can get pretty complicated, so I just honestly haven't bothered yet. So but it's, especially if you've used Discord a lot, if you have any suggestions about how to arrange things in Discord for our class to have a better community or work things out, let me know. Let me know what you think. I've used Discord a bit for classes already, but I feel like I'm still learning. Okay, Teen Titans, Avengers, Defenders, X-Men. Who am I forgetting? I should have done like Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, Justice League, yeah. Or like I should have done like West Coast Avengers or something, a little bit less. Justice League. Okay, so anyway, and also if you feel like changing your name as a team, let me know. I don't mind that. As long as you have a name, that's fine. I like doing. It's nice to do something other than like Team 1, Team 2, and Team 3 because those are harder to remember. But if you remember that you are a Teen Titan, that might be easier, I guess. Easier for me too. But if you want to change your team name, go ahead and talk about that and let me know what you think. Okay, so let's talk next about. Let me talk next about the. Sorry, I just saw a GIF and it distracted me. Okay, so let me talk about the disassembly assignment next because it is important and everyone's working on it, and then I'll talk about blogging too because some of you are going to be working on blogging pretty soon. Okay, so the instructions for disassembly are on the website, and I've spent a little time updating this page today, so if you've looked at it in the past, it might be updated. I'm mainly just updating the date and cleaning up some links and things, and explaining it hopefully a little bit better. Basically, your idea is kind of like what you did with the triptych, to think about comic structure, but in this case, to start with a complete comic that's already constructed using sequentiality and juxtaposition to create meaning, and your job is to pull it apart in some ways and maybe make something interesting, but really focusing on breaking this down as opposed to building up and making a new thing with it. So let me show you a couple things that you'll need to know to do this. First of all, I would like for you to work with a comic from Comic Book Plus. Actually, I already have it up in this tab. Comic Book Plus is a website, a database that hosts copyright-free comics. Some of these are just automatically in the public domain. In some cases, the copyright expired and wasn't renewed. In any case, everything here is legal for you to copy and mess with and publish on your own. So that's a nice thing. We don't have to worry about copyright and free use, fair use kind of things, which I think is fine ultimately. But I think this is just kind of you're likely to find books here that you've never heard of before, and I think that's also kind of valuable. So let's just pick a random one. Let me see. Now you'll find all kinds of things here, and these are Golden and Silver Age kind of comics. So certain categories or genres of comics were a bit more popular in the Golden Age, for example. We tend to think of comics today, and we might think of the superhero comic as kind of the defaults. That's what comics are. But in the Golden Age, we're talking 1950s, like 40s, 50s. These are all kinds of things. Lots of like horror comics, for example, romance comics, Western comics. Let's just take a look at superhero because those do change a bit over time. Okay, Captain Havoc and the Phantom Knight. Let's take a look at these guys. I don't know. I really just picked a new one. Oh, this one's from New Zealand. Interesting. There's a great New Zealander comic artist, Dylan Horrocks, that I would really like to use some of his work in this class, but I have not been able to. Either like the one I wanted was out of print, or it just didn't fit. But I really like his work. I have read this one before. This looks very familiar. Pull up out of the nosedive. Get this, kids. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna find a different one. This one doesn't give me much to work with. Let me see if I can find one that's full color at least, because that gives me a little bit more work I can do. Wow, so much text. Okay, you know what, let me whoop. Whoa. Too many tabs. Let me go here and let me find a different category actually. So let's take a look at some romance comics. Adventures in romance. Okay. All for love. Let's take a look at All for Love. And let's pick one at random. Volume 2, number 6. No idea what this is. I've never seen this before. Okay, great. This looks good. Too many sweethearts. Okay. How do you hold a man who can no more help flirting than he can help breathing? How can you cure a man who just has too many sweethearts? Done again. Oh no, he promised. This looks a bit like that meme, you know, where the boyfriend is looking at the other girl. That there'd be no more girls. There he is, sis, the man you love. Maybe someday you'll realize that he doesn't love you. Yikes. Okay, so this is that's a pretty good example. This is in full color, and so what I'm going to do with this is show you the kinds of things that you might do with your work. I picked this one at random, but you might want to spend a little bit more time choosing yours. That's fine. I think there's a lot going on in this one panel, and so I'm going to see what I can do to change it around a bit, and I'm going to show you that. I don't want to spend too long on it, but I do want to show you the kinds of things you can do and one of the tools you might want to use. For this part of it, you can use Photoshop if you have that. You can use GIMP if you have that. You can use paint.net or whatever that's called. You can use, there's a bunch of different like web-based Photoshop clones. You can use anything like that, anything at all. And I'm going to basically trust you to find one of those. But if you can't, please let me know and I can direct you accordingly. I bet you can find one, or I bet you already know how to use one. I don't think Canva will work if you know Canva, because Canva is a vector-based editor, and so it probably won't let you do bitmap kind of stuff like I'm about to do. But you know, I'm welcome to try, right? So let me show you. Let me see here. I'm going to. I know you can't see when I right-click. What I'm going to do is just right-click and copy image. So I'm just going to put the whole image on my clipboard, and then I'm going to switch on this. Oh, where is it? There it is. Okay, so I'm using something called Glimpse. I'm on a Linux computer right now, and so this is Glimpse is a version of GIMP, and so if you've used GIMP before, this will look very much the same. But hopefully you can see it. It looks like you cannot for some reason. So let me try to get it on here. There it is. Okay. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see my cursor on this. That might be important. So yes, I think you are going to be able to see my cursor. Okay, so this is Glimpse, like I said, and I'm going to spend a little time now working with Glimpse to do some of the things you might want to do. Okay, so for this assignment, I want you to really focus on one panel, maybe 2 or 3, but really I would prefer you to focus on one. So I'm going to focus on this opening panel, and I mean there's a lot going on in this opening panel. So I'm just going to use my crop tool. I'm going to select this area, and then in Glimpse or GIMP, you have this option to crop the image. Where is it? Sometimes finding things takes me a minute. I want to crop to content. I want to crop to selection. Why can't I crop to selection? Oh, okay. I guess I did. All right, so there it is. I don't know why that didn't let me do that from the menu, but it ended up working. So this is the one I'm going to focus on and work on a little bit here. The tools and the specific icons that you see on the left are going to be a little different depending on the tool you use, but you'll find that there's a lot of similarities. Although I'm looking and I'm missing some. Why am I missing some? I'm missing some of the ones I wanted to work on. Okay, well that's all right. So let me zoom in a bit here, and what I'm going to do is just kind of, I'm going to remove the text. Actually, that's a really funny one. I'm going to leave that one there. I'm going to remove the text. I'm going to make my paintbrush thing a little smaller. There it is, and I hope you can see that shape it takes here. But this is just it's the rubber stamp tool, and there's a similar tool in Photoshop. And so this is probably good enough. So what I'm going to do is, for this one, you hold Control down, and then you click once, and then that picks up the area that you're going to be pasting or kind of painting onto the area around you. This brush has too much fade out, so I'm going to make it a harder brush, but make it smaller, smaller. There we go. And then, yeah, so then I'm just going to paste this all over this image, just clicking a lot. So this is a fairly flat color, so it's pretty easy just to do that. But you got to, it takes some practice. As you can see, it's kind of picking up a little bit of the edge of the speech bubble, and so if I make this a little bigger, so like basically as I draw, notice how I move my cursor to the right, the area that I'm copying from it gets picked up as well. Sometimes you can use the Band-Aid. No, that's the eraser. Yeah, I don't know why I don't have the Band-Aid tool on this one. It might be a plugin I haven't activated yet because I have not spent a lot of time using this particular copy of Glimpse. But yeah, so you can see the words going away. And you can make this a little bit bigger if you need to. And I think the idea of an empty speech bubble says interesting things. I mean, it's sort of like it emphasizes silence, or it shows the absence of speech in a way that's more silent, I guess, than like Masriel's work or Linda Ward's, where we get the idea that there is speech happening, we just don't get to hear it, kind of like in a silent movie. When you have a silent word bubble, it's kind of like someone who is so shocked they can't say something, they don't know what to say. So in this case, maybe this speech bubble stands in for all the things this gentleman over here wants to say. I guess from the context, this person over here on the right is her brother, but you of course don't know that. It also kind of appears that given the lack of context now, it kind of appears that this church steeple back here, or maybe it's a school, is the one actually speaking this silent speech. So it might be interesting to imagine what the church might be saying. Are you hearing music? There's music playing. I don't know if you can hear that. I hope not, because that's heavy metal. Okay, so let's turn that off. I was listening to the tool, I guess. Okay, so there's my thing, and there's my other thing. Okay, so that's a very simple kind of edit. Within GIMP, you can do things like changing the color. So if you go to the colors menu, you can change the color balance, or you can invert it. Inversion is usually kind of interesting, but also kind of, it affects everything evenly. Maybe it might be interesting to invert just part of it. That would be kind of fun. Another thing you could do is, let me just undo that. Maybe you could, one thing that I have found some people do is like swap character heads around, and so that gives you a different sense of the narrative sometimes. Or you can swap dialogue, so you can perform like a gender swap on the dialogue and have them speaking differently. Here, these two women's heads are kind of pointing the same direction, so it would be possible certainly to do a little crop and cut to move them, swap them out. Or this guy's face. I mean, that would be kind of interesting. Let me try this. So this has this lasso tool. I'm going to do this very quickly and crudely, but if I had a little bit more time, I can make this a bit more elegant. Not that one. These little tools are hard to, kind of hard to use sometimes. And I could kind of draw freehand, but I don't trust myself to do it very well. Okay, that's not too shabby. Okay, so I'm going to copy his head. I'm just going to go copy. I'm going to paste him as a new layer. Now I have an extra one of him, so he can go here. And let's make another one. And he can go here too, but he's not big enough. So let's make him, where's my scale button? There it is. Selection does not intersect with this layer. What is this? Sometimes the thing that I find so challenging with GIMP and Glimpse also is just kind of knowing what you have selected, it can be really tricky. I want to select none. Oh, that's weird. Okay, the keyboard shortcut is different in Glimpse. That's distracting. What? Where am I? No, I just want to adjust this. Okay. Yeah, it's Control-Shift-A to select none in GIMP, but it's apparently Control-D in Glimpse. So that's kind of odd. All right, so obviously he got kind of blurry when I made him bigger, but maybe it's not too bad. Yeah, that looks pretty weird, but okay, so this is a different work now. I don't know if how well you can see, but I've definitely got a different story being told here at this point. I don't know. There's probably more I would do. Maybe do something with the bushes in the background. But this is, this is a good quick demonstration, I hope, of what is possible with the disassembly. And I was using GIMP. I was using the selection tools there, and nothing too fancy. Again, if you don't know how to use this kind of tool, please ask, and I'd be happy to give you a more detailed tutorial than that. But I hope that was helpful as far as just like the idea of what you're trying to accomplish. And then once you have an idea for what you want to do to a particular comic, then maybe you can find, maybe you figure it out through trial and error, or ask how to do a specific thing, or maybe even look for a tutorial on YouTube. Those are great for demonstrating specific things. And often, especially with GIMP or Glimpse, you kind of have to know the order of clicks, and if you lose track of where you are in that order, you can get confused like I just did when I was working on this. That to me is the most annoying part of working with GIMP. I think the process is similar, the problem is similar in Photoshop. It's just I don't use Photoshop as much, and so when I get into Photoshop, I'm pretty confused in terms of what do I have selected now and what am I working on, what am I looking at. So you can kind of get used to one, and then it's hard to switch to the other. But I like GIMP and Glimpse because they're free. Photoshop, of course, is not free. So if you have a copy, that's great. I can't give you a copy of that or show you how to get a copy of that. But there are also some interesting web-based and fully online Photoshop clones. I don't know if you know a good one, then feel free to share it in Discord, and that might be helpful for other people to see. Okay, so there's a question about the timing, 9:21 or 9:23. Go with 9:23, right? Go with the later date. I think that is what I meant. I think because I had adjusted the schedule a couple times based on like the day where there is supposed to be no class, which is this Friday. So let me just go ahead and change it right now. Oh, it does say the 23rd. Yeah, where did you see 21st? Because it should be the 23rd, I think. Oh, on the schedule page, right. Let me take a look there. Yeah, I think the 23rd is fine. It's just hard to edit that page, just, to be honest. It's just like, it's a annoying thing to edit. These complicated table-based layout pages that I have that are mostly tables on WordPress, because they often, even with the new fancy editor for WordPress, they don't get table layouts right, or like they don't do table stuff, so I almost always have to tweak it, and that's a very long table to tweak. So I'm going to try to change it there now, but we'll see how that goes. While I'm here, this is WordPress, and this is where some of you will be blogging soon. I believe the Teen Titans are up first, and yeah, the Teen Titans. So for the Teen Titans, I have already created a WordPress account for you on this website, marywashacomics.net. So you probably got an email about that, including a link to something to activate your account maybe. It generates a password for you, and so you, I guess, log in with that. Yeah, see what I'm saying? It's like hard to select. I just want to select that one thing. It's okay, I got it, I think. Come on. Okay, there we go. That was intense. Okay, so the four of you in the Teen Titans, you have accounts, and it should have sent you an email. if you do need to log in, your login for the blog now is like the first part of your email address. So like mine would be zwhalen, and then that's your username on WordPress. But then you do have your first and last name also as part of your profile. So one of the first things you should do is change your password, or save it if you like the one that it generated for you randomly, and then edit your profile so that it displays your name the way you want to be known as. Now again, this is just for the Teen Titans. So if you're not in the Teen Titans, then I haven't made your account yet. But when I do, and for the Teen Titans now, one of the first things you should do is change your profile. So if you go here to users and then profile, this is my profile, and you can choose how to display your name publicly, and that can be, this is my username, so Zach Whalen. Let me add my actual name here. I think it makes sense to use my name on this, I mean, for my posting on here, because I'm definitely the professor of this class, and like it's okay for me to be public. Many people choose to use a pseudonym from the blog, and I strongly endorse that. So if you would like to use a pseudonym, that would be great. It can be the same pseudonym in Discord. If you like using a specific pseudonym, that's totally fine. In general, I would recommend a pseudonym as opposed to a real name, just to, might as well, right? So just hit the update profile, and then you'll be ready to start blogging. Now again, this is the Teen Titans only. The way I've distributed the due dates for the, talk about this in a minute. The way I've distributed the due dates for the blogging assignment is intentional. Let me show it to you here. It is spread out so that for some of you it's due on the 18th, and some on the 2nd, the 16th, 30th, and so on. So the idea is that it's not all of you blogging all at once, which is what I used to do with this class, and it used to just become overwhelming because everyone would just flood the site with their posts all at once, and no one would be able to read them or respond to them. Now it's only 4 people blogging at a time, and so that should go a lot easier, I hope. So this is, as I talk about the blogging assignment now, this is something that the Teen Titans especially should pay attention to, but for all of you, you will be doing this eventually, and you see your specific due date when you look at the assignment page in Canvas, and that's for you. Okay, so there's several, pretty specific guidelines for what a good blog entry is. An interesting title, at least one image, a featured image. I'll show you this part of it in a moment. Use tags, let's put it in the category, do at least one link, and then try to be original. So figure out what has already, that might mean figuring out what's already been talked about on this blog, and then trying to add something new. So this is a legacy site, so there's a lot of other students who have already posted on here. 115 I noticed today. Students have used this website in the past. And so you are adding to this sort of database of knowledge that they've already started creating. And so it does get a little bit harder over time. That said, this semester you're looking at some books that have never been taught in this class before, and so you've kind of got some new material to cover anyway. But as far as the topic, it can be anything related to comics, graphic novels, adaptations of comics and graphic novels. There's a lot of things in popular culture and in literary culture that I think are definitely relevant. Really, I can't think of a single case where I have rejected a student's blog entry because it was not on topic. So if you think it's on topic, you're right. It is. If it seems relevant to you, it's relevant. You can blog about the things we're talking about in class, like when we talk about Watchmen. If you happen to be assigned to blog during that time when we're talking about Watchmen, you're welcome to do that. But you don't have to. You can make it as related to our ongoing conversation as you want, or as unrelated. There are several different genres of blog entry. You could do essentially a book review. You could do some kind of analysis. You could do a tutorial explaining how to draw a certain thing or how to do a certain thing in comics. You could talk about your favorite webcomic. I mean, there's a lot of things that you'll see here. And so I encourage you, as you're thinking about blogging, to spend some time looking back through the blog entries that other students have done. And like anything, they vary in their quality, honestly, but look for the ones that resonate with you or that seem interesting to you, and try to do that kind of thing. Like the ones that you think are good, I probably agree with you, and so that's the kind of thing that I would like to see you do as well. Okay, so hopefully that's not too opaque, but I think we'll get used to it as we try it. Let me show you the mindful of time, I need to wrap up soon. But let me just show you on the back end side what it looks like when you blog. And I will save Instagram. I don't know if I need to talk about it, but Instagramming is similar in that it's spread out, and that's also parallel. So right now, I've lost the page, but there's, I believe the defenders might be Instagramming first, if I remember correctly. But that one, you know, a little bit less technical part of that, like, but I can talk more about it on Wednesday. Okay, so this is the dashboard. This is what it looks like when I log in. I'm the administrator. You'll see a slightly less robust dashboard, but you're going to be making posts here. So you go to all posts and you can look at other posts, I guess. But actually, you probably won't see all of your all these posts that I see here. But you'll see the add new button, so you can do that, or you can go post add new, or you can hit plus new. Lots of different ways to get to that screen where you're creating a new post. And this is it. So this is where you write your unique, interesting title. This is where you write your text and your stuff. So this uses the Gutenberg editor, which is the new editor, and I've got it set up to give me classic paragraphs like this, like the classic paragraph block, which I think is really clunky. I don't like it, but it's because I already had content in this blog. It's that required custom HTML. That's what it gives me as the default. But it's, let's see, how do we, is it here? No. Oh yeah, good. Okay, so we have different blocks here. So you probably want to start with paragraphs. So this editor is so like fidgety and jumpy. I don't care for it. But this is text in a blog post, and this is my unique, clever title. You want to add images. Man, this thing is so twitchy. I don't like it at all. So you go to plus, and then you can add all kinds of different things. You can do an image. You can do image compare. That's cool. Oh, neat. You can do 2 images, and then you do a before and after. Oh, that's cool. I haven't seen that one before. So yeah, feel free to try the different blocks. I do like the idea of a block editor. I just feel like the way that it works here is just so like twitchy and jumpy and fidgety. I don't care for that. Ultimately, you should make sure you add some images. Also, make sure you add a featured image. So down here on the right, it says where it says featured image, you need to select an image, and you can upload one directly here or one that you've already posted, or actually this one looks like it links straight into Pexels, which is neat. It needs to be something that's relevant to your post. That is going to be what shows up on the home page. So it's very important. So whenever you see in the home page, like this Squirrel Girl image, that's that post's featured image. If you do not have a featured image, it's going to show up just as a blank square, and it looks out of place. So make sure you do that featured image. See, these are here. These two are missing their featured image, so they look a little different. I mean, they're actually written well, it turns out, but they're missing that key component of the of that post. So make sure you do that. It'll be something you get used to as you try it out. So please try it out soon, and let me know if you run into problems or have questions. Again, it's Teen Titans for now, and it's due in 2 weeks. You should do at least one. If you want to do more than one, by all means, but at least one. And you can kind of see, hopefully the assignment is explained well enough, and you can kind of see a lot of precedent from others that have done it. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. And looks like Poofaloof got in. Okay, so that's good. Looks like the different HQ channels are getting some traffic, so that's good. Let me just see if there's any questions or anything. Okay, great. So thanks, Yoshi Player. I know you've been doing all that with the VGC, so I might reach out for advice. I guess one thing I was wondering about is bots. Like, are there any useful bots that might be helpful? That's something I want to look into a little bit. Like, for example, when I go live on Twitch, I always like post manually, like, hey everyone, I'm going live. I'm wondering, it seems like that's something a bot could do. So I don't know, that kind of thing. Or if there's something in terms of, I don't know, hooking into Twitch in different ways that might be useful. All right, everyone, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for watching. Hope you're all having a good day. Just a reminder, we will have another stream on Wednesday, and I did not have time to introduce the next set of readings, but I'll write an announcement doing that. We will have class like this again on Wednesday, but not on Friday. So Friday is the big move-in day, so that's exciting. And then we'll be back together face-to-face, hopefully next week, starting on Wednesday with that cohort, but not Monday. So anyway, lots of stuff. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully we can get started well with the disassembly project, but I will send you a link with some homework. We're going to be looking at Scott McCloud and comics theory over the next couple weeks, so it should be fun. All right, well, I will wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. See you later.